My name is Lucy Vecchio and I am the producer of Burn.
I'm Andrew Bennett and I am the writer and director of Burn. It started off as, strangely, just a dialogue piece that I wanted to write. I do, naturally, when I am writing, for some reason I just like to concoct strange situations of two people having, I guess, off-kilter conversations, and it just sort of came out. And it sort of happened in a matter of days, and it only got to an early draft, and it was entered in the Australian Film Festival Future Film Screenplay Competition. And that was awarded first place. And I remember then it was like, well, we have to make the film. I mean, you know, it's stupid just to sort of not write on an accolade. And then it brewed for a while, and there was a couple of rewrites. And I remember talking to Lucy because she started doing a lot of production work, but more on sort of like more line producing or producing.
Yeah, production managing sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And then I said I really want to make a film, and she really enjoyed the script, and then it sort of just came from there. It was a matter of, I think we both were desperate to do something, and there was something that had already kind of stewed. Well, the film's about two brothers, two aged brothers. They're kind of in their 60s, scallywags who can't escape their previous life and end up in hot water again. It's just a dialogue piece about a specific situation of between two older scallywags. I don't think the financial side of it came into it, but I think that strangely you do enjoy the feasibility of doing something when you're writing something simple, because you just think to yourself, this is already working, this is already happening, and you can easily intimidate yourself early on in the writing process when you go, wow, shit, I've just written something with 20 scenes, this will never become a short film or whatever, because it's, you know, the actual breakdown's complex, where you're going to get the budget for it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think for me, at the time, I was kind of, well, I always am anyway. I mean, we always all should be really looking for good content in scripts, and good scripts, because it all starts from a great story. And I think, yeah, the fact that it was just a really simple piece made it even more appealing for me as a producer to do it. And so, yeah, number one, it was a great script. And then number two, it was like, yeah, we can do this. So it kind of amped it up a bit more because of that. The fact that it had won an award, a screenplay award, I think it was a booster in a way. But I think as well, when people read the script, they actually read it and really liked it for what it was, not because it had just won an award. So I think the people we got on board for it were just really amped up to make a good script, which is what it was.
To fund films these days, we're giving a lot of options. You can seek out private investors. I mean, you can slog your guts out through your day job and then working up to that couple of months of, you know, savings to get the shoot done. But also, you know, we're giving crowdfunding models as well. I think at the start we realised we had something feasible. We realised we did have a feasible project. We realised that it was anything where you have less actors, or, you know, you can be in one location. It definitely helps you decide how much money you have to use. And in this case, I think we realised we could pull through with just, I guess, pooled funds, I guess you could call them. We basically pooled funds from internal groups within the film, and so basically finding sort of executive producers through the people who are involved in the film. And we realised we could do it, I guess, on a smaller budget without having to go through those other mediums. But we definitely sort of made a decision to not use crowdfunding.
Yeah, I think that was the right decision for this script. I think I did maybe have a look into some of those avenues for funding, like the Metro Screen and all that, and Screen New South Wales. But again, for this project, I just didn't think it was worth it. Yeah, it just wasn't worth the energy, I don't think, to go through that when I knew that we just needed to do it, and we needed to do it now, and it could be done now. I think that was the right decision for the project, I guess.
Some of them don't even, some of them don't queue up with when you want to actually shoot anyway. I mean, it's always hard. There's always sort of months or dates that you have to get things done by, which we either would have pushed it back or sped it up to a point where it was undercooked. Honestly, there's different situations for everything. I mean, you know with your guts what the sort of, I guess, the quickest and most efficient road would be. And that can even be a lot of work, I guess, even the most efficient road. It just depends. I mean, it depends project to project. Well, I think crowdfunding is a really interesting thing to talk about because I think it's very specific to certain productions, really. And I think depending on even the structure of your crew and how many people are in pre-production, which way you should go. We decided against crowdfunding, and it doesn't mean that that's the right path for everybody, but we decided against crowdfunding because we had a very small crew. We didn't have a basically dedicated muscle to go through the hype stages of our campaigns, and also what a lot of crews forget about, which is the deliverables and that post end, which either gets neglected or then becomes a headache and a burden.
Yeah, it's just a job in itself, just to do the crowdfunding side of things. And I don't think it was, this project didn't need it. I think we could stand on our own for this and just get it done.
And I think as well, it depends, you've always got to think about what your film's doing and you work backwards from its result. So what we wanted to do is we wanted this specifically to be a festival film. We know short films, it's not that you get dedicated screenings or, all that kind of stuff. So being a short film, we could easily work backwards and know that that's marketing in itself, going to festivals and all that kind of stuff. If we were trying to get a film on big screen, you need hype. You need your street marketing crews. You need your people posting on the internet. You need your videos. You need your updates. And so if you've got a dedicated group for that, fantastic. But I mean, it can really take the wind out of your sails to make a great film, and you're trying to run through post-production and keep printing DVDs and T-shirts and whatever afterwards. It really depends on how your structure of your group is, I think. I come from a music background, and so when I see things in their final stages, I kind of like to be surprised by certain elements. There's certain elements that you can't afford to be surprised by, which you try to control in the shoot, but then there's elements that you want to be surprised by. And I think I was actually surprised with just how, I guess, realised some of the grit was and the actual portrayal of the characters were. I mean, sometimes in early stages, you don't even imagine it being finished. So, I mean, that's a cool thing. I don't know, I'm a big fan of a product being the sum of its parts, and so I actually like to be influenced a lot on set by the actors or the cinematographer and stuff like that. So I feel like I get energy because I'm a big people person, so I like to swell up and then explode and then... And then, this is so dirty. I like to suck in energy.
Yep.
Right? Grow and bloom. Oh, the first one was way better. And then but the thing is that, so because it is the sum of the parts, I really like to then see what's happened in this brewing process. And so quite often, I mean, sometimes it can be really scary. And I don't think it was scary. I thought it was a really good experience. I'm just glad it came alive, really. My experience to set was really fun this time, actually. I think we had a really great group of people. I think it's the main thing is why I guess I loved working with Lucy so much, and why we sort of felt attracted to each other through each production was because of we work really hard. We get professional when it needs to be, but there's also a lot of fun and enjoying your job when there needs to be, and I think that's balanced quite well. It was one of the most trustworthy sets I've been on in my memory, and I think that's just that placement of the right people.
Yeah.
I had a great time. It's still hard work, you still come home mentally drained, but I mean, it's just a matter of you don't think twice about whether it's negative or positive. It just kind of happens. I think a big thing is that for people who are starting off directing, I don't know, I would warn off against auteuring completely. I think it's a gentle layering process. Anything like that. I mean, when you go to, audio school or even, a music course like, at the Con or something like that, your first compositions start off 2-piece, 4-piece, and then they gradually grow, and they don't just chuck an orchestra at you. And for those people who just want to run in and start throwing bits at an orchestra, I mean, that could be the absolutely most amazing bit of music that you've ever heard, but that's very rare.
Something I learned, I think, was just about pace, I guess, keeping up the pace and keeping up the energy to just push it and keep going as, you know, keep taking it along each step. I think overall the post-production has been a bit slower than I wanted. It's just, because it is such a low, you know, we weren't paying actors, we weren't paying crew. I think the process trying to get it all done, I think, is, as well, everyone's got their own lives, everyone's trying to make money, everyone's trying to work on bigger stuff to get, you know, bring in the bread basically. And this was, I think, and it was slowed down as well because I think I didn't want to rush it. It was a passion project of both of ours, and I think there were times where we could have made decisions that took us down a quicker route or quicker path. I think I decided not to, in a way, just because I think I wanted the rest of the crew and the rest of the post-production crew to own the film as well as their own. And that, I think, again, like, I think that was the right decision to make.
That's a really good point, actually, ownership. I think that it is ridiculous running a tyrannous set just because you think that your film's worth it and if no one else believes in it. I think creating a situation where people take ownership of what they do and they really like it, whether it is a passion project that people aren't getting paid for or something like that, I think it's really important. I think you've always got to constantly creatively refresh and give nutrition to the people in your crew. Otherwise, they come out of it feeling like they've just done another job for free. So I think that's really important. I think we worked really hard to Lucy worked really hard behind the scenes, making the set worthwhile, the way it ran and all that kind of stuff. I think, I don't know, just the energy and the script was quite lovely and funny and everyone enjoyed it and we had a good laugh. And I think because making sure that we're making people comfortable, I think that was really important. Yeah,
it was important for me to hear that everyone was just had high energy about enjoying the film and having some sort of ownership in their role and being involved with the film. That was important for me to hear that from everyone else. And everyone else was consciously voicing their opinion about how great the crew were, and the crew were amazing. More and more you realise, I guess, what you prioritise within a script and what you prioritise. I mean, there's a lot of things that we had to turf along the way, but you're constantly prioritising. And what we realised one of our main characters was the bath. There's this bath that was so important to get, and we drove ourselves bananas trying to find the perfect bath. We had the actors, we had the location and everything. When did we pick up the bath? I came across the bath out the front of someone's house when I was just walking along the street, and I said, "That's the bath. That's the bath." Yeah. And I just knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, can we use your bath?" And she took me around and we sat in it because it had to be big enough for two people, so we had to go and sit in it. And then we had to think, well, hold on, we've got two old men, and are they going to be comfortable sitting in a bath for 2 days with water? So that was very important. But so it's sort of like we knew it would be silly and completely useless if we didn't have the right clawfoot bath that we needed. If it was wrong, it would have ruined everything, and I would have just kicked it over and. Yeah. Speaking of directors. Yeah. I do and I don't have I guess a gripe about what people think directors are when they get into short film, and especially amateur film. I think we are told of hierarchy on set at a very early age, and I think people wear the hat before they actually go through the years, and sometimes I think it's just very important to know how much you're growing in your own role as well. And short film and amateur film is just a fantastic way to learn. I guess how far you have to go, and constantly making short films and constantly growing on set. So I sort of think that a director, especially in the early stages, needs to earn the trust of their crew and earn respect to perform better, and kind of not the other way around. I think it's, again, a tyrannous set in the early years, I think, can destroy friendships as well as destroy any energy from people, I guess a crew that's not being paid. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I think you can't just run everyone into the ground like that, especially in the early years. When everybody starts getting paid, I mean, at least people can then justify, well, look, it's been a very hard week, but I'm earning money for it. I'm earning an hourly rate, but you can't dig people into the ground like that. There's certain requirements with when you develop your career further and further, when you're applying to Screen New South Wales, Screen Australia, and other funding bodies, there's certain requirements you need to have. and those are, you know, usually it's having a film screened in one of the top festivals, and these minimums and stuff that you have to meet. And I think I think that's the reason why we want to hit the top from the top down. And yeah, it's about launching people's careers, I guess. That's what the festival circuit's about.
And again, I think it goes back to, I guess, what you want, and when you do conceive a film, starting at the end and sort of wondering which part of, you know, I guess the industry you actually fit in. And we always felt that the film had a kind of elegance about it, and it had kind of, I guess, more of a classic filmic kind of market, and therefore that there were a lot of festivals that we felt were very attractive to us. I think YouTube's a very, very specific market. I think people do release a lot of great shorts on there, but I don't know, there's a reason why we still press albums on vinyl, you know what I mean? There's different ways for everything, and as long as you're constantly working hard to find that door, really. I mean, it's very specific to the project. Not sure if there's one way about it, really.
For me, it always comes down to it always starts with a good story, a good script. You know, you can have the best of everything else, but if you don't have a good script, good story, then you don't have it, you know? So for me, I think that's the issue. You just need to find a good content.
And that's proven. That's proven in all industries. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
People, I do feel, honestly, and it's not pointing out any specifics, but I mean, in Australia, we do a lot of tail chasing and stuff like that. And I sort of feel like, naturally, we seem to be behind, in regard to trends, we seem to be behind countries like, you know, England and, well, the UK in general, and then the US. And therefore, because we are delayed in, I guess, what's hot, when they sort of predict the next big thing, we're already behind, and then there's this constant tail chasing and all this kind of stuff, instead of just expressing a lot of, I guess, honest, candid stories that I know a lot of people have. And it's proven in music and film that, I mean, those little gems do make it. I mean, you know, look at films like Once, and where it was a film made on, I think at most 200 grand once they'd reached the publishing point of the film, but it was shot for a very small amount, and for some reason it just had a pulse, and people detect that resonance and really kind of, I don't know, want to celebrate it. I think that's where it is. But I just sort of, I don't know, I feel kind of overwhelmed at the moment. I'm not going to lie to you. I have no idea what the Australian industry is going to do. I feel like everything's quite muddled. Everybody's overwhelmed constantly with how much they're not doing, whether it's through fellow filmmakers on Facebook, or, you know, the constant bombardment of what's fresh on YouTube, or, you know, all this kind of stuff, that I think there might be this bizarre insular revolution where everybody kind of retracts and does exactly what they want to do, regardless how offensive or stupid it is. And I want to be a part of that revolution.
I think you have to have a passion for it. I think and that's because that ultimately is what's going to drive you, and you just have to persevere. You have to have a passion that helps you persevere through it.
Yeah, honestly,
Like
I think,
I don't know what else.
I think if you can get through your first grueling set, and you're not questioning why you want to do the next thing, that's a really good thing. Because I think, especially where I've been brought up, like at the moment, I don't think I'm ready for a mortgage, right? I don't think I'm ready to make those kind of financial investments, and that's due to me. I think I've just naturally taken on projects, and they've either been passion projects or things that really inspire me to keep going even when the odds are against you. And I think if you can get through those sets, and there's nothing stopping you from doing the next one, regardless of the lack of sleep, bruises, or, you know, malnutrition, then I think you're on the right path. Because honestly, you shouldn't question these things. I mean, if my friend talks about the trifecta, right? And he talks about you've got to fulfill two of the three sides to make it worthwhile. One side is that it has to be financially, good for you financially. The other one has to be a good hang. And the third side has to be creatively stimulating. So if you can get good money and creatively stimulating, that's really great. If you can get a good hang and creatively stimulating, that's really great. You know, but if you've got one of the sides, then it's not worthwhile. So if you just, you know, if you come out of it and maybe just getting paid, but you don't like it, then it's time to move on.
Again, what we were talking about before, I think another good piece of advice, in my opinion, is to go to film school. To go to film school if you have no experience whatsoever, if you don't know anything, which is what I was like when I was younger. I just experimented. I did my own things. I got a camera and I just sort of made things up, myself, made videos and with my friends and all that. And I consciously knew that it was an industry I wanted to get into, but at the same time, I felt the right thing. I felt the right thing for me to do was to go to film school, and as opposed to just trying to make it, So yeah, I learnt a lot by doing that.
It depends what sort of person you are. Some people naturally develop certain life skills that I guess just working in the film industry doesn't really give you. But I naturally felt like I'd done music for a bunch of years and I'd taught myself and promised that if I went to my other love that I'll get a bit of structure behind it. Because I worked for like 10 years trying to push bands when I felt like if I just learned a few things I could have done it in 4 or 5 and without burning the candle at both ends. But that's just me. That's just how I work. So I felt like I needed a bit of structure. And you can't know until you do it, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, you really
true.
can't know until you do
yeah.
film school, because people who say they don't need film school,
for me,
they
I
don't
think
know the other way,
I
really.
kind of just went with the gut instinct. I knew that I needed to. It was going to push me along in my process faster. I just knew that for me. So.
Well, I think that's it. I think if you really want to go to film school, that's fantastic. I don't think that, and I think if you're mature about it and you know what because I mean, you're not going to take on board everything that they throw at you. I mean, you sort of let things stick when they feel right and let some things pass because you realise that's just opinion or somebody else's growth. But I don't know, if you really want to go to film school, I mean, it's already sort of, that's already kind of made the decision for you. We always talked about this as a stepping stone because we'd worked on other films. I came out of a feature film which is still in post-production, and again, just either going through the same kind of post-production woes that a lot of people go through and feeling that inability to, pick up again after it, and then just realising that you're in control of, I guess, your own energy. We put the project together to propel us into the next one, which will propel us into the next one, and so on, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think, I'm looking to do more sort of production managing stuff at a higher level as well.
We feel like we work together really well, and it is quite rare. I think sometimes it's natural for writers to find each other or like roles to find each other and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a different business, I guess, finding someone who you can inspire and take orders off, or vice versa. I think that's a very different thing, because although we came out of the same school, we've got to respect our differences in, I guess, regard to expertise. And I don't mind taking orders off Lucy at all. I actually really need it, but we just hope that it sort of at least gives us other opportunities outside of, I guess, our core group, as well as helps us make some great films. I think we both know we just want to travel the world and work on sets.
Yeah, I just have the energy for it.
Yeah,
I just want to keep going, keep doing more.